Good evening everyone, Kalla here, welcome to my live stream, glad you could make it today. So, today, Variable Barricade, where I am hoping to finish this board. I think we can make it. And I also think this is the last board. So, I mean, it probably is, given there are two routes off of that big event, right? There's this route, and there's this route. That's the only time we've had a split like that on a board. So, last time, Hibari attempted to officially choose Nayuta as her fiancé and actually let him know it. He, for a start, misunderstood, but also revealed that he was only in this to be her bodyguard in the first place. He wasn't even supposed to be a potential spouse. We don't like that. Hibari doesn't like that. All the other guys know how Hibari feels. But nothing is getting through Nayuta's skull. Except maybe, now that he has seen the movie that Hibari cribbed from for that date, maybe he will understand. Maybe. I'm not sure about that. Hello, Drag. Oh, you doing? So, role-playing? Influenced by the movie, Nayuta can't get Kevin out of his mind. I'm not sure how to react. This is either a good thing or a bad thing. How am I doing? Still suffering the after effects of the cold, but otherwise, good. Well, I'm like, oh shit, there's a lot of stuff I need to get done before Christmas. Did I catch what you had last week? Well, if what you had was COVID, no, because I checked. This is just a run-of-the-mill everyday cold. Right. It was the morning after I'd been forced to watch The Guardian. Unable to sleep at all, I spent the morning in bed. I can't believe I had to watch that movie with Nayuta. Moreover...
Kevin to Hiroinって俺とひばりさんに似てません?
Oh yeah, that's what we ended on, wasn't it? Nayuta also noticed the similarities between us and those two characters. I felt conflicted about the whole thing, but if that's what it took for him to say something, so be it. What do I do? If I have feelings for Nayuta, if he becomes aware of this fact...
ひばりさん、俺のこと好きだったんですね。でも、すみません。俺、あくまで護衛志望なので。
What if he just flat out told me that? I seriously wouldn't be able to recover from that. Just thinking about it made me want to crawl in a hole and never come out. Oh my gosh, I hope that doesn't happen. I tried to prepare my entire being, body and soul, by throwing a few desperate pleas out to the universe. Then I fearfully headed downstairs. Remain calm. Everything's okay. You're all right. You've got this.
おはよ
おはようございます、ひばりさん。
おはよ
ひばりさん、ひばりさん、今日の朝ごはん作るの俺も手伝ったんですよ。
なゆたくんが朝ごはんを？
ほら、映画の中でケビンがヒロインに朝ごはん作ってたじゃないですか。あれやってみたくって。本当はあのメニューそのまんまを用意したかったんですけど、一夜さんがダメだって言うから。
What did Ichiya stop you from making, Nayuta?
転職のシリアルはともかく、朝からフライドポテトというのは健康面的に許可できないからね。
The neon-colored cereal is fine. That's a perfectly normal breakfast, Ichiya. I mean, in this country, it's not usually that bright. But I'm guessing we're going with, like, Fruit Loops or something here. Or... does Lucky Charms count as neon? Not sure. But yes, French fries for breakfast. I'll pass. Ichiya appeared from the kitchen with a strained smile on his face and a plate of colourful fruit in his hand. All the fruit was cut into bite-sized pieces, and it certainly resembled cereal. I guess this was Ichiya's compromise. You do Frosties, do you, Nick? I'm on Cocoa Pops. Sometimes Frosties, mostly Cocoa Pops. Which, incidentally, if you go into the cereal aisle and you pick up, like, an adult cereal, and you pick up one of the kids' cereals, like Frosties, Cocoa Pops, and just look at the nutritional information. The kids' one is actually healthier. And that's my excuse for why I still eat Cocoa Pops, and I'm sticking with it. Yeah, it was like one of those fruit clustery adult cereal things, and I just looked at the nutritional information and went, stick to my Cocoa Pops. By the time tea was ready, Shion had also joined us in the dining room.
おはよう。昨日はよく眠れた？
ええ
二人とも目の下にクマが浮いてるよ。
I agree with you there, Nick. I look at them because I don't put milk on my cereal because I don't like the texture. So yeah, the adult ones that are just really like dry and hard looking, and it's like I can't eat those. I didn't believe him, so I looked at Nayuta's face. That was true. He had faint dark circles under his eyes.
実は昨日あれからずっと借りた DVD 見てて。
How many times did you watch The Guardian last night, Nayuta?
ずっと？
やっぱり何度見てもケビンの護衛っぷりは最高でした。特典映像も良かったんですけど、やっぱり本編が一番ですね。
And the special features.
そうか。それはまた随分ハマったみたいだね。
Phew. It doesn't seem like he's aware of how I feel. Why is that a few, Hibari?
おはようございます、タイガさん。
朝からやかましいやつだね。って、なんだよお嬢のその朝飯。なんか昨日の映画の飯に。
俺が手伝ったんです。俺もケビンみたいになるには朝ごはんくらい作れないとって思って。
Tiger's expression clearly said, "Good luck with that, babe." Mind your own business. And so the day began with Nayuta's well-meaning Guardian-style breakfast. However, that was only the beginning of the nightmare. I finished my tea after eating breakfast. And right when I took a small sigh of relief,
ひばりちゃんは今日は何か予定ある？
Shion didn't seem to have an ulterior motive in asking me that.
そうね。手芸用の材料がなくなったから買いに行こうと思ってるわ。
It'll be a nice change of pace, too. I always turned to my hobbies when I didn't want to think about anything else.
あ、それならもちろん俺もお供しますからね。
いいえ、いつものお店だし、わざわざご縁なんて別に。
ダメです。いつも行っている場所が安全なんて保証はありませんから。それで出発は何時の予定です？
お昼を食べて1時くらいには。
了解しました。じゃあ俺の方も準備しておきますね。
だから護衛は別に。
I'd given in to his pressure and ended up answering him. Looks like my luck had run out. I couldn't believe I was going to be alone with Nayuta in my current state.
ひばりちゃん、頑張れ。
What kind of support is that? I was still agonizing over everything when the clock mercilessly struck 1.
それじゃあ行きましょうか。今日も俺がひばりさんをバッチリ守りますからね。
I just had to keep him completely separate. Stay calm, Don't think about the movie.
そうだ、出発する前に決して俺から離れないでくれよ。
Nayuta, you are going to kill both me and her. It felt like time actually stopped for a moment.
俺は今日もあんたを守り抜く。たとえあんたが嫌だと言ってもだからあんたも俺から離れないでくれ。
I almost screamed. He just recited some of Kevin's most memorable lines from The Guardian. But why did he just...
なゆたくん？
すみません、今だって思ったらつい。ほら、真似したら俺も少しはケビンみたいにかっこよくなれるかなって。
He's totally obsessed. No matter how you look at it, he's letting it influence him way too much. Oh my gosh, I have a bad feeling about this and we haven't even left yet. Turns out my feelings were spot on.
その荷物、俺に渡しな。あんたの細い腕じゃ見てるこっちが不安になるからな。階段には気をつけろ。あんたは危なっかしくて目が離せない。なんなら俺が抱いて運んでやろうか。勝手に俺から離れるんじゃない。世話の焼けるお嬢様だな、あんたは。
Opportunity, Nayuta spouted off lines of Kevin's dialogue. It was fine, so long as it just made me sad. Anything more than that, though. Please. Still, a part of me remembered what made me attracted to Nayuta in the first place, and I got a slight fluttery feeling in my chest.
それにしてもなゆたくん、英語のセリフを完全に覚えていたわね。そんなにケビンが気に入ったの？
はい、俺もあんな風にもっとかっこよくなれたらなって。見ててくださいね、ひばりさん。俺も頑張ってケビンみたいな一流の護衛になりますから。
This is all an act. Nayuta admires Kevin. He's just playing an act. I frantically tried to tell myself this, then decided to change the subject.
それよりそろそろ次のお店に行きましょう。
はい。
When we finished shopping and went outside, the sky was awash in shades of orange. We approached a large crosswalk that was overflowing with people. It was definitely rush hour. Also, Nayuta kept up his Kevin impression, which steadily frayed my nerves.
俺、手芸店って初めて行きました。今回ついて行ったので、次からの護衛はもっと精度を上げられますね。
Don't think I need to be bodyguarded in a craft store, Nayuta. There are not a lot of dangerous people in a craft store. There is a fair amount of dangerous things, technically. But still, that's not the point.
そう、それは良かったわね。
I was on edge because Kevin could pop up at any moment. So I kept just enough distance without him noticing. I'm exhausted. We've done shopping, so let's just get home immediately. I felt a jolt in the back of my leg, and then I managed to catch myself from falling and noticed a dull pain shooting through my heel. I looked down at my stockings and saw a faint trickle of blood on my foot. Oh, crud, I can't stop here! I hastily looked up, but it was too late. Nayuta was nowhere to be seen. I wondered if he'd gotten pushed forward by the crowd. Ah, talk about adding insult to injury. Time for Nayuta to carry her. What are we going for, piggyback or princess carry? Or alternative option, her sitting on a bench and him putting a bandage on her foot for her. Which honestly I think he would prefer. Because foot. Literally and metaphorically. Got to get off of this crosswalk and check my foot right away. His voice echoed loud and clear, cutting through the hustle and bustle. I immediately turned my head in the direction it came from. There! I spotted Nayuta fighting against the flow of people making his way back to me. I can picture this, because the crosswalk in question here is clearly should be a scramble. So there's a lot of people. That is a pretty cool CG. He saw me! A wave of people surged forth, sweeping me away. But the moment I felt the sharp pain from my bloody throbbing heel. His strong arms were holding me tight. The middle of the scramble crossing is not the place for this. Get off the road.
ごめんなさい。俺気づくのが遅れちゃって。よかった。俺あなたに何かあったら。
It's hard to tell which one of us is the one in distress. Nayuta squeezed me tight as if to say he missed me. At least it's not super public. That is not the problem that I am having with this drag. The problem I'm having with this is you've stopped in the middle of the bloody crossing. Keep going. Not a fan of people stopping in front of me. I am grumpy about people. He was overreacting. We were in public. And I was embarrassed. At least that's what I should have been thinking, but I feel so happy. It made me inexplicably happy to see how he felt when he frantically came back to me. The feeling we were doing something incredibly embarrassing in the middle of the street. But I forgot about that for the moment. Nayuta and I had reunited, and that was a relief.
足から血がどうしたんですかこれ
Nayuta's like, I got separated from you for a minute. What happened?
ああ、これはちょっと靴ずれで。でも大したことはないのよ。
If your foot is bleeding, that's not a blister, Hibari. You got it from similar reasons than a blister. But
十分大したことですよ。ああ、ひばりさんの綺麗な足に傷が。
I told you. But Hibari's face.
その、なゆたくん、ケビンの真似はもういいの？
え？
あ、ほら、ガーディアンにも似たような状況があったでしょ？足をくじいたヒロインに向かってケビンが
Don't remind him.
そんなこと言えません。確かに俺はケビンみたいになりたいし、今日はそれを意識して真似してましたけど、ひばりさんが痛がっている前で格好をつけて笑うことなんてできません。あなたの怪我は演技なんかじゃありませんから。
I gripped the edge of my skirt and hoped he didn't notice how I was feeling. It's not fair of you to say that. You've been wearing my heart down all this time and haven't had a clue. It would have been better if you'd kept the act up. I could have been appalled by you. I could have hated you. But Nayuta wouldn't grant me that wish. If he were to say something like that to me again and mean it, then... along with what he said yesterday, I'll end up hoping again, won't I? Afterward, we found a pharmacy and bought some bandages and an antiseptic. We took care of my heel and then decided to wait where the car was going to pick us up.
その、なゆたくん、さっきはごめんなさい。
So we're skipping right over the bandaging. Darn it. I was fully expecting... I guess we're too close to another CG.
なゆたくんは本気で私を心配してくれたのに映画の話なんてして。
いえ、俺は全然気にしてないんで大丈夫ですよ。
そう。
It hurt when he said that kind of thing.
でも正直、ひばりさんがあんなことを言うのはちょっと意外でした。
そうね。私もなゆたくんを見ているうちに真似をしたくなっちゃって。
なんだ、そういうことなら俺の演技に乗ってくれてもよかったのに。そういえばさっきの状況、ガーディアンでも似たような場面がありましたよね。ケビンとヒロインがデート中喧嘩して人混みの中はぐれちゃうでしたっけ。
そうね。
Actually, it wasn't just similar to the movie. The situation from today was also similar to what happened when I was trying to figure out Nayuta's feelings for me. Wait a minute. Maybe I've dug my own grave by bringing this up.
でも最終的にはケビンが追いついてヒロインをギュッと抱きしめる。それからまったく俺はこれからどれだけあんたに試されるんだろうな。目くらい閉じろ、空気の読めないやつだな。って言った後、ヒロインとヒロインと
I can hear the gears.
なゆたくん、
I jumped when I realised what he was trying to say. That's right. After Kevin and the heroine embraced, there was definitely a super passionate kissing scene. I totally dug my own grave. Why did I bring up this topic of all things?
違うの、さすがにそこまで再現する気はなかったわ。
そうですよね。やだな、俺変な想像しちゃって。でも俺って昔からヒーローごっことかで役になりきっちゃうことがあったんで、もしあの時完全にケビンのつもりでいたら。
いたら？
していたかもしれないです。
And the problem with that, Nayuta, is you wouldn't have meant it, would you?
聞こえないわ。今なんて？
なんでもありません。俺何も言ってません。あ、ほら、迎えの車が来ましたよ。早く帰ってちゃんと靴ずれの手当てをしてもらいましょう。
Nayuta flung open the back door of the car and forcibly pushed me into the back seat. Of course, I couldn't question him more about the kiss and all that in front of the driver. We soon returned to the vacation home with an awkward tension between us. Yeah, just chuck your injured lady into the back of a car. Sure, Nate. Ooh, so we can go talk to Tsunugi and Aramura. Or we can go see what Nayuta's doing. Let's go talk to Tsunugi and Aramura. Talking to Tsunugi and Aramura about Nayuta's acting, Tsunugi instantly gets what he's doing. We were having our usual girl talk session. My pent-up honest feelings exploded in front of Tsunugi and Noah.
せっかく諦めようって決めたのに、なかったことにするんだってやっと決心できたのに。なのに、ゆうたくんったら、おほほほほ。
あんた、もうちょい意志の強いやつだと思ってたんだけどね。
そんなこと言われても、だって
ひばりさんが痛がっている前で格好をつけて笑うことなんてできません。あなたの怪我は演技なんかじゃありませんから。
なんて。あれで本人は私のこと何とも思ってないのよ。もう犯罪じゃない、あの無邪気さは。
あんたもうケビンうんぬん関係なくただ振り回されてるだけじゃん。
そんなこと言われても。恋の香りがしますわ。
あんたも筋金入りだよね。前回の失敗で懲りたんじゃなかったわけ？
Romansaholic.
何を言っているんですか？愛の戦士は不滅ですのよ。
意味不明だし。
意味はこれから説明いたします。ズバリ、ひばり様、諦めるのはまだ早いですわ。八神さんはひばり様のことを憎からず思っている可能性大。勝負はまだまだこれからです。なゆたくん、私のことを？
I'm not. Well, I was gonna say I'm not sure that Tsunugi's correct there, but she might be.
ちょっと待ちなよ。いろいろ飛躍しすぎ。根拠あんの？
So, hello, Hunter. I still have a bit of a cold, but otherwise I'm okay and not ready for Christmas yet. I still need to wrap like half my presents. Pack the rest of what I'm taking with me.
もちろん。よろしいですか？以前ひばり様は自分たちの境遇と映画を重ね合わせて自らの恋心を自覚しました。ヒロインと同じ体験をして共感したからこそ、これは恋なんだときはずが、結果は残念。それはなぜか。はい、ひばり様。え？だからそれは那由他君にその気がなかった。
Any idea on gifts I might receive? Yeah, I know some things. Because I do get... Because some people do ask me for suggestions. But like, at least half of it's gonna be a surprise, which is better. Also, it's a surprise because I was asked for suggestions months ago and I've forgotten what I said.
その通りですわ。つまり一方通行の恋。
Saying it so bluntly like that really rubs salt into the wound.
ですが、八神さんもまた鑑賞会で映画の2人が自分たちに似ていると気づいた。そしてヒロインが好みとも発言しましたわね。
まさかあんた、それだけの根拠で脈ありだなんて断言するつもり？ヒロインが好きだからってそのまま現実の好みにつながるわけじゃないでしょ。
そうね、好みは好みでもご主人様としてかもしれないし。確かに以前の八神さんならその可能性はありました。ですが今回は違います。
Are you sure, Samugi? Because I'm not certain.
思い出してくださいませ、ひばり様。キスの話になった時の彼の反応を。
もしあの時完全にケビンのつもりでいたら、キスしていたかもしれないです。
明らかにキスという言葉を意識してますわよね。確かに。
まあ那由他さんのイメージだったらそれこそ。
あのままだとキスしちゃってましたね、あははとか笑い飛ばしていたはずですわよね。その通りだけど、想像するだけで心が折れそうになるわね。
He didn't actually say that to me, which meant...
つまり彼は映画を見てキスという恋人同士特有の行為に動揺し、その行為が自分の身にも起こりうる現実だと初めて認識した。そしてそれをしそうになったあなたを異性として意識しだした。そういうことではありませんの？でも私の気持ちに気づかないなら結果は同じなんだ。
そうそう、東條の言う通り。あんたのはただのこじつけ。
そうでしょうか。ひばり様、八神さんには花婿候補の3人以外にお友達はいらっしゃいまして？どうかしら。公園のお年寄りとはお話しするみたいだけど。恋愛相談をできる親友のような方は？私は聞いたことない。その上でお尋ねしますわ。もし 私たちがいなかった場合、彼が好きだと自力で自覚できましたか？
Samuki's just like, hey Barry, you're really dense about this, but you figured it out because we talked to you. Nayuta is also dense, but he doesn't have friends to have girl talk with.
いや、それは。
ああ、カノ、あんたそれ反則。
ちょっと、有村さん？一番の親友である私が断言しますわ。それ、つまり結論はこうです。八神さんは超絶鈍感なだけで、本当はひばり様ラブ。なんとも思っていないのなら、顔を赤くするなんてうぶな反応、絶対にいたしません。
The problem with the other suitors is they weren't being quite as direct as Samuki. I think. Did Nayuta actually like me? No, of course not. There was no way. Oh, so I wanted to believe. No. There's a part of me that wants to pin my hopes on that possibility. But what if it ends up being another misunderstanding? If that happened, I'd... This would be so much easier if I knew what Nayuta was thinking. Why, of all people? Why did I have to fall in love with such a confusing person? An incurable illness. Watching that movie over and over, Nayuta is suddenly struck with a mysterious illness. I dropped Hibari off at school and then came home to watch a DVD in my room. The movie was, of course, The Guardian. Kevin and the heroine, a broken-hearted bodyguard and a virtuous young lady. How their feelings intertwined and the hardships they faced. The way the story unfolded was masterful. I wonder how many times I've seen this now. I didn't even know why I was so obsessed with the movie. Kevin was awesome. He was the exact kind of person I wanted to be. But then what about... Why do I care so much about this heroine? Even when Kevin was being a total badass, I couldn't help but feel drawn to the heroine. I mean, she was obviously dignified and beautiful, but... While I was thinking about it all, a certain scene came up on the screen. After embracing each other tight, their faces gradually moved closer together. The moment I saw their lips meet, a tremendous heat rushed up to my face. At the same time... For some reason, I couldn't help but think about Hibari's face from before and how her cheeks were a little red. If I'd gotten caught up in the act, would I have done that with Hibari? I definitely knew that kissing was a big deal for girls.
もう少しでひばりさんをまた傷つけるところだった。危ない危ない。そうだ。こういうことは正式な花婿の人と。
Samuki, he doesn't have a clue.
スをするひばりさんが
The moment I pictured that scene, I felt a dull ache in my chest.
なんだろうこの感じ。俺どこかおかしくなったのかな。
I felt like this had been going on ever since we went out the other day and the kissing scene came up. Curious to find out the cause, I grabbed the remote and decided to rewatch the kissing scene one more time. I had it paused at a good spot, pressed play and...
ナユタ
って
ナユタ大丈夫？
はいなんでしょう。
ちょっとお使いをお願いしようかと思ったんだけど。あれ？ナユタ、風邪でもひいたの？顔真っ赤だよ。
You did recommend me that, Hunter.
そっか全部風のせいだったんだ。
That's not a cold, Nayuta. Now that I thought about it, I have been staying up all night and watching The Guardian on repeat lately. Maybe all those late nights made me come down with a cold.
自分で言っておいてなんだけど、ナユタって風邪をひくことはあるの？
Shion? Shion, are you going for the too dumb to catch a cold angle? Yeah.
はい実際顔が熱くなったり頭がぼーっとして同じことしか考えられなくなってますし。
そう。それじゃあ、くしゃみや咳は？
くしゃみに咳？いえ、そういうのは全く。
それ、本当に風邪？それにしては、症状がおかしい。
Yeah, Nayuta, if you're not coughing and sneezing, I'm not sure it's a cold.
俺はこれからどれだけあんたに試されるんだろうな。目くらい閉じろ。空気の読めないやつだな。
あれ？このセリフは？
Quickly turned around and saw the scene in the movie was playing. And once again, Kevin and the heroine's lips met. And Shion saw it. When I realized that, my face grew hotter than before.
あ、いや、これはその。
I didn't know why, but I was strangely embarrassed.
ナユタ、もしかしてさ、その風、ひばりちゃんに近づいたり、彼女のことを考えると悪化したりしない？
You want to know what sort of game this is, yeah, Hunter? It's a visual novel. Specifically, genre-wise, this is an otome game, which means that we are playing as a girl and romancing mostly dudes. I'm pretty sure there's a more widely accepted definition of that, but
どうしてそれを？まさかシオンさん、お医者さんですか？
医者ではないけど、真似事くらいならできるかな。
Shion, are you going to get through to him?
ナユタ、その風邪の症状について詳しく聞かせてくれる？
はい。実は少し前からひばりさんのことが頭から離れなくて。あ、いや、 ひばりさんのことを考えているのはいつものことなんですけど今までとは違うっていうか、彼女のことを考えてると熱が出てきたり胸がざわついたり、変なことを考えてもやっとした気持ちになったりします。
Nayuta, I think we need a definition on weird things.
古典的な言い方だけど、それは不治の病だね。
不治？治らないって意味ですよね。
Yeah, you're doomed. Not in the way you were initially thinking, right?
まあ普通の方法じゃ無理だね。だからその病とは上手に付き合っていくしかない。
そんな付き合っていくって言われてもどうすればいいんですか？
考えることかな。
考える
Yes. Use brain.
その病気の原因が何なのか考えるんだ。それしか方法はないね。
俺の一番苦手なことです。
We're aware, Knight. We are aware you have the dub.
ま、少なくとも死ぬような病気じゃないし、頑張ってみたら。
はい。
お使いも今日はいいから、ナユタは安静にして、その映画でも見てなよ。
Shion's just like the movie is slowly getting through to him. He needs to keep it up.
それじゃね。
Shion walked out of the room with a smile on his face. Think about the cause, huh? Easy for him to say. I couldn't think of anything right now. But I had a feeling I knew when the symptoms started showing up. The Twisted Wonderland is a little bit different on the basis that it isn't a romance game. And it has a and yeah, because it's a gacha game, it has its visual novel segments to the story. But yeah.
違うの、さすがにそこまで再現する気はなかったわ。
そうですよね。やだな、俺変な想像しちゃって。
It started happening when Hibari and I talked about the kissing scene between Kevin and the heroine. Was that when I caught this incurable illness that Shion told me about?
そういえば。
Just before that conversation happened, we were at the crosswalk where we almost got separated. Hibari had desperately reached out her hand to me, and the expression on her face. She had a similar expression when I made her cry before. Passionate, with determined eyes. It seems like she's been in distress since then. In fact, it sounded like she's been having the same symptoms I was having right now. Could Hibari also be experiencing this kind of distress? Because I made her cry? That's not the reason. Okay. I'm gonna summon all the thinking power I can for this. I felt like all these symptoms were somehow connected to why she cried. I never wanted to make Hibari look like that again. Yeah, Katsuga might be a good person to talk to about this, you're right. Also, I can practically hear Nayuta's brain overheating from here. Work mode? Where did you go? Nayuta comes with me to a party as my bodyguard, but he's not acting like himself. One morning.
誕生日パーティー？
ええ。大旦那様も懇意にされている実業家の方の誕生祝いだそうで、ひばり様も出席するようにと。
ずいぶん急な話ね。わかったわ。おじい様には参加すると伝えておいて。
わかりました。では、放課後に。
Naturally, this means Nayuta will be coming with as my bodyguard. His behavior has been strange lately, though. Maybe his obsession has cooled or something, but he had stopped imitating Kevin. And now, whenever he saw me, he acted suspiciously. He'd clutch his chest like he was in pain, and overall, he didn't look like he was doing well. Plus, I swore that sometimes he seemed to be examining my expressions very closely. Oh my gosh, did he actually pick up on my feelings? But if that happened, I think he'd ask me straight out. That's just his personality. That's enough of that. Good thing it doesn't seem to be interfering with his bodyguard work. For now, I'll have to focus on this party. Later, after school. The venue was lavishly decorated in honor of grandfather's friend. No expense had been spared for all the food, drinks, and flowers either.
いやー、すごいですね、派手さが。
見事なもんじゃな。小娘の婚約者披露パーティーもこれくらいはしてやろう。
結構です。そもそも相手もまだ決まっていませんし。
Hibari in a fancy dress. I like the hair ornament. I would like to see the dress.
やれやれ、待たせおって。と、そうじゃなゆた。お主的にはあの三人だと誰が良さそうじゃ？
It sounds like that guy might have feelings for the girl. Well, I bloody well hope so, Hunter. It's his route. He's just really dumb.
Oh, 俺ですか？俺はそのひばりさんが選ばれた方なら誰でも。
おう、こやつの目を信頼する
はい。みんないい人たちですし、きっと結婚式も素敵なものに。
Response was odd. He'd given a similar response before, but his voice was clearly lacking in enthusiasm.
それよりひばりさん、飲み物のおかわりはどうですか？
オレンジジュースを。
オレンジジュースですね。了解です。もらってきました。
Uh-oh.
すみません。お怪我はありませんか？
ええ、大丈夫だけど。
おいおい、何やってるんだ、ナユタ。さっきから気になってたが、集中力が足りてないぞ。
はい。ごめんなさい。
Just as I suspected, something's off with him today. I felt like he wasn't even fully in work mode. If he had been, he wouldn't have made such a simple mistake.
まあ、怪我がないのなら構わんじゃろう。それより、わしはよう思い出した。二人で適当に時間を潰しておれ。行くぞ、小次郎。
You're leaving us alone on purpose, Gramps.
はあ、わかりました。それじゃあお嬢様、また後で。
They left us alone together. I glanced at Nayuta, but... for some reason, he quickly averted his gaze. This is so incredibly awkward. We couldn't just stand in silence the whole time. I figured I'd break the tension with some harmless small talk.
その、ナユタ君、このドレスどうかしら。
Hey Barry, show us the dress. All I can tell from that sprite is that it's strapless and red. I would like to see the dress.
いきなり決まったパーティーだったから選ぶ時間があまりなかったのだけど、変じゃない？
変だなんてことはないです。絶対に。綺麗です。ひばりさん。いつも綺麗ですけど、そのいつもより。
I felt let down by his unexpected response. It was so strange. The old Nayuta would have said something like, "Yep, you look beautiful," in that cheerful and completely oblivious way of his. Oh my. Once again, I tried to figure out what was going on. Nayuta's face was bright red as he stared at me. He also seemed to be tearing up a little. He looked as if he was...
八神さんは超絶鈍感なだけで、本当はひばり様ラブ。
What Tsumugi said before rushed through my mind. Could it really be? No, wait. Let's all calm down. This is the perfect time to remind yourself. Keep your guard up. I've already had enough of getting my hope up only to have them dash into a million pieces. I definitely don't want to feel that way again. Better to be bold and ask him directly.
ねえ、ナユタ君。ここ最近様子がおかしいけど、一体どうしたの？調子も悪いみたいだし、何か悩み事でもあるなら。
心配かけてすみません。なんか風邪っぽい病気のせいで落ち着かなくて。
I don't think you should be at a party with lots of people if you have a cold night.
風邪？
Nayuta even catch colds? I mean, if he says so. I guess it was just my imagination after all. but I don't think I've noticed him sneezing or coughing.
おお、これは東条のご令嬢ではありませんか。
Before I could question Nayuta further, someone called out to me. I turned to see a familiar man standing behind me. Wait, is it going to be our friend who we're not allowed to talk to? No. No, it's just an old dude. Boo! If I remembered correctly, he was an acquaintance of grandfather's that I met several years ago.
これはご無沙汰しております。その後お変わりありませんか？
いや、おかげさまで事業も順調です。それにしてもお顔を見るのは久しぶりですが、ずいぶん美しくなられましたな。ご当主様もお喜びでしょう。
そうでしょうか。
それはもう私も見とれてしまったほどで。ああ、そういえば風の噂で聞きましたよ。お嬢様は今婿選びの最中だとか。どうです、うちの息子など。
それは私からは何とも。祖父にも聞いてみませんと。
I see. That's why he approached me. Here we go. I tried to decline politely, but there was no sign of him stopping anytime soon.
いや、親の私が言うのもなんですが、これがなかなかにできた息子でして、詳細もかなりあるのですよ。
ですから私に言われましても。
まあそうおっしゃらず、ここに写真もあるのですが、よければご覧になって。
He stepped closer to me without hesitation. Yeah, we are hoping about Nayuta getting jealous or just bodyguarding us out the way here. I was about to be subjected to his photos when...
すみません、失礼します。
Nayuta intervened with a swift maneuver.
なんだね君は急に。
その
Uh-oh. Someone didn't have a plan. Nayuta? I stood there stunned at seeing him falter. He'd completely reverted. Nayuta had totally gone back to his normal self. In other words, he was a mess.
邪魔をしないでくれ。私は大事な話をしているんだ。
申し訳ありません。当家の者がご無礼を。新参で不慣れなものですから。
I hurried to help him out.
おじい様がお呼びなのね。どちらにいらっしゃるのかしら。
It is time to yes and the interruption.
はい、あちらの方に。
わかったわ。お話の途中で大変失礼ですが、私はこれで。
ああ、ご当主様がお呼びなら致し方ありませんな。
I bowed, gave Nayuta a quick glance, and left.
なゆたくん。
すいません、あの人しつこかったし、ひばりさんが困ってたし。でも割って入ったのはいいものの、急に頭真っ白になっちゃって。
それはいいけど、なんだかおかしいわよ、なゆたくん。大丈夫？さっき風邪って言ってたし、やっぱり体調が悪いんじゃ。
大丈夫です。でも俺ちょっとトイレに。そう、トイレに行ってきます。すぐ戻るんで絶対ここにいてください。
いってらっしゃい。
I looked at him doubtfully as he ran off at high speed. Something was definitely off. I've never seen Nayuta revert back to his normal self while on bodyguard duty. What in the world happened? Oop. Nayuta mode. I used the bathroom as an excuse and left the venue. I'm desperately taking deep breaths over and over again. I knew it was irresponsible to leave my client while on bodyguard duty. But I couldn't stand next to Hibari while I was in this state. My heart was pounding. It was different than the feeling I got after an intense training session. My chest felt even tighter than that. Could this be another symptom of my incurable illness? If so, then the only way to get rid of it was to...
考えることかな。
考える？
その病気の原因が何なのか考えるんだ。
そんなこと言われても、考えてる間に死んじゃったらどうしたら。
何やってる、ナユタ。
おじさん。
I guess my uncle was coincidentally passing by. He stopped and glared at me with a serious scowl.
お嬢様はどうした？持ち場を離れるな。
わかってる。今戻るよ。
Left the hall dejected and no closer to finding a solution. I'm not dying. I'm probably not dying. I'm not gonna die yet. I repeated that over and over in my head. Alright, the dress. Aha! Cute. Hibari spotted me and began walking toward me, a worried expression on her face. My heart was pounding wildly and I gently pressed my hand to my chest. Well, Nayuta, either you're in love, having a heart attack, or having a panic attack. Or possibly more than one of those things at the same time. Probably not the heart attack, though. Quite possibly the panic attack. But just then, I noticed a shadow on the ceiling moving and flickering abnormally. Is the chandelier gonna come crashing down? What the? I won't make it in time. Spurred by that realization, I forced my feet to move even though I'd felt frozen just moments ago. I reached out to her for dear life. Oh no! He got hit by the chandelier. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Something crashed down hard on my back. I suddenly lost consciousness. The commotion from the large crowd brought me back to my senses. The slight weight on my back made me remember what happened. That and the person underneath me. Oh! Oh! Trapped. Trapped between Hibari and the fallen chandelier, huh? As I hurriedly got up, the remains of the chandelier spilled off my back and onto the floor. I immediately checked the person on the ground. Oh, the one who meant the world to me.
ひばりさん、無事ですか？
As far as I could tell, my beloved Hibari hadn't sustained any serious injuries.
よかった。間に合って。
But
ひばりさん
she is probably very, very red. There was no response. Uh-oh. Nope. Not red at all. The opposite. Nayuta, I think you knocked her out. She lay there collapsed, her face pale and her eyes closed.
ひばりさん、ひばりさん
I hugged her limp body and called her name over and over again. She was still unconscious. Her face was still white as a sheet. I couldn't help but think the worst.
ひばりさん、お願いです。目を開けて。
バカ、揺らすな、ナユタ。
Yeah, picking her up and shaking her when she's probably suffered head trauma was medically not the right answer, right? My uncle had heard the commotion and rushed through the crowd to get to us.
おじさん、どうしよう。ひばりさんが。
お前が慌ててどうする？こういう時こそ落ち着けって何度言い聞かせてきた。
My body instantly obeyed his commands. My uncle then kneeled down and looked carefully at Hibari's face.
頭を打ってる可能性がでかいな。今、会場に控えている医者を呼ぶ。ナユタ、それまでお前はお嬢様をそのまま動かすな。
Little by little, I managed to get a hold of myself. It wouldn't help anyone if I made a scene. It would only make Hibari's condition worse. Logically, I knew that, but Hibari... All I wanted to do was shout her name over and over until she woke up. But I restrained myself and instead...
ごめんなさい。ひばりさん。
For breaking your heart, and now for being unable to protect you? I whispered to her softly, filled with regret. Soon after, the doctor rushed to the scene. After the doctor treated her as best she could, Hibari was taken away in an ambulance. I was left behind at the venue since I wasn't allowed to ride with them. And all I could do was stand there, clenching my fists in anger at myself. Unfit to protect. Nayuta is relieved of his job as my bodyguard after failing at his duty, but I decide to... Why do I have such a terrible headache? I thought I was at the party. Well, she's clearly not that bad off since she's in her own room. I forced my heavy eyes open and was greeted by a familiar ceiling.
お目覚めですか、ひばり様。ご無事で本当によかった。
カスが
パーティー会場で事故に遭われてから今まで眠っておられたんですよ。
How long ago was the party? I'm assuming it can't have been that long, right? If it was a significant amount of time, we would be in the hospital, right?
事故
That's right. I remember now. The chandelier suddenly fell and I...
春日、私。
どうかご安心を。意識を失われただけでどこにも怪我はありません。
Kasuga recounted what happened for me. Although I wasn't hit directly by the chandelier, I hit my head slightly when I fell back. I'd been taken to the hospital as a precaution after being treated by a doctor at the venue. A thorough examination revealed that everything was fine, so grandfather took me back to the family estate in Kamakura to monitor my condition. Why were we not in the hospital until we woke up? That kind of feels like it's an important thing to do. I breathed a sigh of relief. That chandelier looked pretty big and heavy. If it had actually hit me, my life would have been in serious danger. My head ached a little, but that was all.
ひばりさん、下がって。
I was in one piece since he protected me.
そうだ、ナイタ君は？まさか私を守って彼の方に何かあったなんてこと。
ああ、彼でしたら。
Kasuga slowly turned to look behind him. My eyes followed and... Nayuta was standing alone in a corner of the room, doing some very sad puppy dog eyes. How long has he been there? I didn't even notice.
ナイタ君、心配をかけてごめんなさい。あなたに怪我はなかった？
はい。
ナユタ君。
What was wrong with him? There was absolutely no enthusiasm in his voice.
すみませんでした、ひばりさん。俺、ひばりさんを危ない目に遭わせちゃって。俺がもっと気を張ってたら、こんなことには。
His remorseful expression immediately told me how bad he felt.
待って、あれはナユタ君のせいじゃないわ。むしろナユタ君は私をかばってくれたじゃない。おかげで助かって。
違います。俺、あの時全然護衛に集中できてなかったんです。その結果、あんなことに。あれだけ守るって言ってたくせに俺。だ
けどほら、私はこうして無事なわけだし、そんなに気を落とさないで。次はしっかり守ってくれればそれでいいから。
But right as I tried to give him some encouragement...
次なんてありませんよ。
You're not allowed to take him away from me. Kojiro.
おじさん。
Kojiro strode into the room with a grim look on his face.
すみませんね、お嬢様。ノックもなしに。
それは構わないけど。小次郎さん、今のはどういう意味ですか？
そのままの意味です。ナユタ。
はい。
ご当主様の命令だ。お前をお嬢様の護衛から外し、代わりに俺が務める。
If you're guarding me, who's guarding Gramps?
理由は言わなくてもわかるな。
はい。
待って。
This conversation had gone on for too long without my input.
いくらなんでも処遇が厳しすぎます。 那由他君は身を挺して私を守ってくれたのに。
そうですね。ですが守りきることはできなかった。今回は運に恵まれただけ。頭の打ちどころが悪かったら最悪の結末になっていた可能性もあった。そうでしょう。
I mean, that's true, but that's not a reason to fire.
だけど
那由他、何か異論はあるか？
ありません。
那由他君。
よし、それじゃあ今すぐ別邸に戻って荷物をまとめてこい。
え？
何を驚いてるんだ？今のお前にあそこにいる理由なんてもうないだろ。花婿候補でも護衛でもなくなったんだから。
Like Kojiro, Nayuta turned his back to me in silence. Wait, why did he say anything to me? He said so many times, to an irritating degree even, that he wanted to protect me. Now he's just giving up after one failure? I don't want that!
待って。
ひばりさん。
Nayuta looked back at me.
お願い待って。まだ話は終わってないの。
でも俺はもう。
Nayuta, you are not going anywhere. Hibari's not gonna let that happen. Nayuta looked utterly bewildered. I turned my attention away from him and fixed my gaze on Kojiro.
お願い小次郎さん、彼にもう一度チャンスをあげて。確かに那由他君は今回ミスをしてしまったかもしれない。でも彼が優れた護衛であることは間違いないでしょ。
そりゃあまあ身体能力だけでしたらね。ですが肝心の護衛に失敗してたら意味がない。油断してたって言うならなおさら。
それでも私が惜しいの。
Mixed feelings about emphasizing his role as my bodyguard, but as the Tojo family heir, if I framed it like I couldn't let go of such an excellent employee, that would go a lot further in persuading him. He looked back and forth between Nayuta and me.
わかりました。
He looked reluctant, but he gave in.
おじさん？
お嬢様直々の訴えだ。俺の一存で却下することなんてできねえよ。
それじゃ
もっと何もかもお望み通りにはできません。護衛の交代はご当主様の命令ですしね。
And we'll fight him about it if we have to.
せいぜい雑用係としてこいつをあなたのそばに置いておくぐらいが限度でしょう。
ええ、それでもいいわ。
He didn't have to leave. I still had a chance to ask him about how he felt. For me, that was enough. But
そういうわけだ、ナユタ。お嬢様のお心遣いに感謝しろよ。
はい、ありがとうございます、ひばりさん。
there was no joy on Nayuta's face as he said this. Nayuta? Oh, why'd he look like that? I thought he'd be like, thank you so much, I'm gonna work super hard and get back to being your bodyguard. I expected that sort of cheerful response.
ナユタ、今後のことは後で話す。お前は離れの外で待機してろ。
はい、失礼します。
He nodded at Kojiro and left the room. Amidst the heavy silence, Kojiro turned to me once more.
ひばり様、今回は本当に申し訳ありませんでした。 それにご迷惑をおかけした上、あんな。
いいえ、私がどうしてもって言ったんだもの。
He then went silent and looked at me with a complicated expression on his face.
ひばり様はナユタの過去について何かお聞きになっていますか？
過去というと初任務のことですか？それなら春日から。
I glanced over at Kasuga and gave a slight nod.
そうですか。
Kojiro hesitated for a moment and then spoke seriously.
ナユタのやつはあれでも八神の家では期待されてたんですよ。ガキの頃からやたら身体能力が高くて、それに加えてアホみたいに素直で何でも信じる性格が可愛くて、俺もいろいろと甘やかしました。特別に稽古をつけてやったり、自分の経験した護衛の話を武勇伝みたいに聞かせたり。でも俺はナユタの素直さを見くびってました。あいつは俺の持った話を信じたままでかくなっちまって。
Nayuta certainly did believe everything. I had also witnessed the outcome of that unabashed honesty in multiple occasions. That's what caused his death, after all. Kojiro suppressed a frown and stood up a little straighter.
俺の話の中でも特にナユタが興味津々だったのが立派なご主人様についてでした。誰よりも正義感があって心優しく清く正しく美しい完璧な主。ナユタにとってあなたはまさに理想通りの方なんですよ。
私はそこまで言ってもらえるような人間じゃ。
I must have shown how uncomfortable I was, because he gave me an awkward smile.
間違いなくナユタにはそう見えてます。こだわりが強すぎて以前の依頼主を危険にまでさらしたナユタがあなたのためなら命を懸けると言った。ならばそれが最良の選択かもしれないと俺は思ったんです。理想のご主人様を護衛できるのならあいつも実力を発揮できるだろうなんて淡い期待までしてました。
Kojiro smiled slightly when he said that, then exhaled deeply.
それもあいつには無理でしたがね。
The tone of his voice sent a shiver down my spine. Up until now, Kojiro's expression had held a certain warmth and gentleness. But that expression now turned glacial, like he was perfectly capable of cutting out anyone deemed unnecessary. His whole tone completely changed.
今日のナユタの失態は護衛としてあるまじき行為です。今のあいつに人を守る資格はない。
Oh my.
ひばり様。
I took in a sharp breath as his sharp gaze landed on me.
ひばり様があいつのことを可愛がってくださっているのはよくわかっています。
Very fond of him. Yep, that's one way of putting it.
それは大変ありがたいですし、恐れ多いんですが。ですが、あなたは東条家の後を継ぐ方なんです。そんなあなたの護衛にあの出来損ないをつけるわけにはいきません。
Well, what if I didn't keep him as my bodyguard? What if I gave him a different role?
そんなことをすれば、何代にもわたって護衛を任せていただいている東条家の方に申し訳が立ちませんよ。
The Tojo family heir. The one to carry on the line. Sometimes that position helped me. Sometimes it tormented me. I frowned as I tried to pass through all my thoughts. Then Kasuga, who'd been silent, spoke up.
イバリ様、よく考えてみてください。あなたの周りには、あなたの代わりを務められる人間がいるでしょうか。
Kasuga's eyes narrowed like he was staring straight into my soul, and I looked away. There's no way I can answer that. Saying yes would mean I didn't understand the importance of my own existence.
あなたのような立場の方をお守りするには、それ相応の護衛の腕が必要になる。大旦那様はそれを踏まえ、八神様がもしあなたに選ばれれば、最高の護衛になると考えたのです。
I mean, that's not why I chose him, but...
ですが、それが不可能となれば、彼をそばに置く理由もないでしょう。
私が那由他くんがいいってそう言ってもダメなの？
この件につきましては、ひばり様の意思よりも東条全体の意向が優先されます。ご理
understood both their viewpoints, but I couldn't bring myself to agree with them. I thought about what they said again. He couldn't have that good-for-nothing as my bodyguard. Nayuta was not suitable since I'm the Tojo heir. Both of them have already made up their minds that Nayuta is unfit to protect me. It's true that there was an accident earlier, but there was no way I could think of him as unfit to be my bodyguard. He put his life on the line to protect me, for crying out loud.
というわけなんで、しばらくはひばり様のお気持ちをありがたくいただいておきますが、どうかもう一度冷静なご判断をお願いします。
Yeah, I'm not sure she can do calm right now. I returned his sharp gaze with one of my own.
それは那由他くんを見限れということですか？
Yes, give up the role of air and go live with Samugi. Yes. Well, the problem is that if you remember, Samugi only has a few more years of Gothy Lolly freedom herself, right?
ええ、そうですね。そう取っていただいて構いませんよ。
Hearing that, I responded, I'm pretty sure the answer here is I believe in Nayuta. Yay, sword.
私は那由他くんを信じたいと思ってます。
ひばり様。
確かに彼は危なっかしいところもあるし、暴走してしまう時もあります。でも彼は私を裏切らない。それだけは絶対だから。ずっとそばにいて守ってもらうのなら、私は心から信頼できる人がいい。だから私は那由他くんの護衛がいいの。
Didn't even flinch when I said it. Kojiro frowned and sighed.
可愛い甥っ子をそこまで言ってくださるのは私としても嬉しいですが、でもあいつでは到底。
小次郎さんが何と言おうと、私の意見は変わりません。
I stared determinedly at him. He then looked over at Kasuga with a troubled look on his face. Kasuga shook his head in dismay.
まあ、ひばり様のお気持ちはよくわかりました。しばらくの間、あいつは雑用係で様子見しましょう。ですが、それをいつまで続けられるかは保証できませんよ。
I gave him a small nod.
ええ、それで十分です。
ではそういうことで。
And with that, Kojiro quietly left the room.
疲れた。
I sighed, and instantly all the tension released from my shoulders. Kasuga smiled tightly.
ええ、そうでしょうね。今日はまだ安静にしていた方が良いでしょう。さ、少しお休みください。
ええ、そうする。
Kasuga pulled the covers over me and I slowly closed my eyes. I'm not sure we are actually making it to the end of this today. And not just because of how many events we still have to go. My throat is not enjoying this. Getting it right for dummies. Seeing how far in the dumps Nayuta is after being relieved of his post, Tiger doesn't hold back his opinion. The Tojo family estate was silent as a tomb. Nope, nope. Nayuta mode, Nayuta mode. Nayuta mode when I can really feel the fact that I have a cold. I was summoned to the courtyard where my uncle told me how Hibari was doing.
よかった。じゃあこのまま安静にしてれば目は覚めるんだよね。あ、でも頭も打ってたし、呼んでも返事しなかったし、まだ安心は。
Nayuta.
Alarmed, I looked up and came face to face with my uncle. He looked livid. His eyes were brimming with sharp, unwavering fury. My momentary relief vanished. I don't deserve any kind of comfort. I stood there, frozen in silence, while he continued to glare at me.
現状に至るまでを報告しろ。細かくだ。
はい。
I hung my head and gave a detailed report of what had happened. How detailed!
どうしてひばり様のおそばを離れた？訓練通りの距離で護衛していれば十分防げたはずだぞ。
I knew that, truly, from the bottom of my heart. I gnawed on my lip as regret welled up inside me.
今日のお前は明らかに集中力に欠けていた。何があった？
それは。
That's what I couldn't figure out, no matter how hard I tried. And when that guy started talking to Hibari, my body moved of its own accord, and before I knew it, I'd stepped in between them. That's when my head got all messed up and I couldn't make sense of anything. Losing my grip. I felt flustered and couldn't say a word. By now, my uncle was staring daggers at me.
説明できないならしなくていい。今何とかしなきゃならないのはお前がしでかしたとんでもない不始末だ。いいか、お前が怪我を負わせた相手は東条家の跡継ぎであるひばり様。お前がご当主様に直談判してまで守ると誓ったお方だ。
処分？
I was completely stunned. My uncle turned away from me and then...
ついてこい。そろそろひばり様が目を覚まされる。
I should have been happy to hear those words. Instead, they sounded like a death sentence. A few days passed after the incident at the party, and Hibari was going back to school today. As I tossed and turned in bed, I remembered everything that happened that day. The day I lost my right to be Hibari's bodyguard. The punishment was justified and I was ready to accept it. But
お願い小次郎さん、彼にもう一度チャンスをあげて。
Hibari rejected it. She protected me, even though I couldn't protect her myself. Why is she so determined to act on my behalf? I could only think of one reason. Hibari was kind, so she took pity on me. Oh dear. Just when I thought my dream was about to come true. I'd always dreamed of protecting a respectable master. Or rather, I believed if I became a good bodyguard, I would be able to meet someone like that. I was convinced that's how I'd meet my master. But that didn't happen. I couldn't protect anyone but a respectable master. That's why when I met Hibari, I was so super duper happy and excited. I knew she was my ideal master. And yet, despite all that, I let someone so important to me go unprotected. She even gave me a good luck charm. I picked up the charm from my bedside table and sighed.
お守りよ。あなたに今一番必要なもの。
もしかしてこれ手作りですか？
でも今はそこじゃないわ。お守りの文字をちゃんと見て。
油断大敵？
そうよ。すごく大事なことよ。わかった？
Then, I didn't understand what Hibari was so worried about. I was just so happy she thought about me and even made it herself. But now I understood. Keep your guard up. I get it now. I even had the charm in my suit pocket that day. She must have given me this charm to warn me against getting too prideful. Nope, that wasn't it. Even though Hibari protected me, I was allowed to stay here doing odd jobs for her. I couldn't bear to show my pathetic face, so I just avoided her every day. It was almost time for her to go to school, but I was still wallowing under the covers. I really wanted to be with her and talk with her. It was too painful to look at her. So painful I couldn't look her directly in the eyes. What am I even doing here? Maybe I should give up on going back to being a bodyguard. The road ahead was so unknown, I couldn't think about anything. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Dumb, stupid idiot. I've been called all of that so many times. Yes. Yes, you are, Nayuta. But it's not a bad thing. It's just a frustrating thing.
ああ、本当のバカだな。そんなことに今更気づくなんてよ。
No, he's only agreeing that he's an idiot, Tiger. He hasn't figured out what he's being an idiot about. Sorry.
Tiger-san?
I shot up and blinked my eyes in surprise.
何なんですか？突然入ってきたりして。プライバシーのあれですよ。
Man Cove.
プライバシーの侵害も言えねえバカが生意気言ってんじゃんね。
He leapt over to me in a flash and brought his fist down on the top of my head. I rubbed my head as tears sprang up in my eyes. Tiger rose to his feet and snickered at me.
ったく朝飯も食わねえで何してんだよこの大暗いが。
Tiger's like, I could tell something was wrong with you because you're not eating.
俺だってご飯が喉を通らないことくらいあるんです。悩みだってありますよ。
ああ、バカ。
なんでバカって言うんですか。自分でもそう思いますけど。
だからバカだっつうの。バカが悩んで何か解決すんのがや。
What will I solve? I sat on the bed and dropped my head in my hands, trying to hold back tears.
もうそれ無理かもしれないです。だって俺病気なんです。絶対に治らない不治の病なんです。
は？
シオンさんに言われたんです。治らない病気なんだって。ひばりさんの顔を見るだけで心臓がバクバクするし、変なことしちゃうし、公演の失敗もそれが原因で、人もう死ぬんです。タイガさん、今まで遊んでくれてありがとうございました。お元気で。
おいバカ。
もうすぐ天国に行く人に向かってバカなんて言わないでください。
お前が天国に行けると思うなよ。つがよくわかんねえけど、お前は死なねえ。安心し
ろ。なんでそんなこと言えるんですか。
バカだからだよ、バカ。
あ、またバカって言った。
Nayuta, you're not going to die. You're just an idiot. I threw my head back and shouted at the ceiling. Tiger jumped slightly like he was taken aback. He then put his hand on my head and...
お嬢のやつ、落ち込んでたぞ。お前が朝飯にいねえって知って。それにな、お嬢の護衛だってお前のおっさんがでけえ面してやってんだぜ。お前は本当にそれでいいのかよ。
良くないです。本当は全然良くないです。けど俺、護衛も外されちゃったし、できることなんて何も。
Saying it out loud made me even sadder. I looked down at my hands and Tiger sighed at me.
さっきも言ったろ、バカが悩んだって何も解決しねえって。あのな、ナイバカにはバカなりのやり方がある。思い出してみろ。今までお前はどうしてた？俺の知る限り、お前が頭を使ったことなんか一度もねえ。とにかく動いて動いて動きまくる。それだけだろ。お嬢だってお前のそういうがむしゃらなところを認めてんじゃねえのか。
Closeness.
でもそれでまた迷惑かけちゃったら。
今も迷惑かけ続けてる。心配すんなよ。
ひどい。
事実だろうが。いいかなよだ。こういう時はシンプルに考えろ。お前はお嬢のそばにいたいかいたくないのか、どっちだ。
俺痛いです。
役に立ちたいか。
立ちたいです。
ここでグズグズしてて役に立てると思うのか。
思いません。
よし、だったら今すぐ用意しろ。そんで動け。何でもいいから動いてみろ。何度失敗してもいいから諦めんな。次は絶対成功する。そう思ってやれ。お前ならできる。多分。
totally believe in you. Well, about 75%.
タイガさん。
ほらさっさとしろ。お嬢学校行っちまうぞ。
はい。
Motivated by Tiger's speech, I tore out of the room at top speed. I was on my way to see her. I hurried outside and saw Hibari and my uncle about to get into the car. I took a deep breath and shouted.
ひばりさん、俺もお供します。
I let out a big enthusiastic shout, trying to sound like my usual self.
なゆたくん？
なんだお前、起きてたのか。
ごめんおじさん、いろいろ準備してたんだ。
準備ってその格好でか。雑用係のお前がついてくる必要なんてねえぞ。
もしかしたら行き帰りにちょっとしたお使いとか必要になるかもしれないし。ね、いいでしょ。
あのなあ、ナユタ。お前自分がどれだけ甘いことを言ってんのか。
Naive isn't the right word. He sounds like a puppy again. Kojiro.
わかってるけど。
待ってください。私なら構いません。なゆたくんは学校でも有名人だし、急にいなくなったら騒ぎになりそうだし。
お嬢様がそうおっしゃるのなら仕方ねえな。しばらくの間だけだぞ、ナユタ。ほら、さっさと車に乗れ。
Hibari had saved me once again, so I hadn't quite stopped being pathetic. And I definitely made a step in the right direction. Sure, maybe I was a dummy who caused trouble for everyone else. But even so, there must be something I could do to be useful to Hibari. I absolutely, positively swear I'm gonna make Hibari happy. Yeah, we would get asked so much about him if he stopped turning up. It's so true, Drag. Because she's the one who showed me I could dream again. He's still not there. He's still not there. Whom I really want to protect. Tsumugi and I run into Kojiro, who has Nayuta along as his gopher. And the way he's acting makes me wonder... I got ready for the day in the peace and quiet of my bedroom. I'd been feeling overwhelmed by everything that had happened recently, so Tsumugi invited me out for a change of pace. I was touched by her concern for me and figured it wasn't a bad idea to go shopping together. We hadn't hung out as just the two of us in a while. However, what about my bodyguard for today? The whole bodyguard situation bothered me and made me feel anxious. Kojiro was now my bodyguard. Nayuta just handled odd jobs. At first, he was really depressed about it and stayed holed up in his room. But then something happened, and a few days later he went right back to being his overly energetic self.
ひばりさん、俺もお供します。
Nayuta now hung around me all the time. If Kojiro reprimanded him, Nayuta would snap at him and say he was just doing odd jobs. And of course, since Kojiro was with me, I barely had any time to speak with Nayuta privately. But it'd make me happy if he came along today. I left my room secretly thinking about that. After I finished getting ready, I went down to the living room. Nayuta noticed the second I entered and started coming over to me.
あ、ひばりさん、お出かけですか？なら、
ひばり様、少し早いですが、もう出られますか？
ええ、待ち合わせ前に寄っておきたいところもあるし。
了解しました。春日君には私が伝えておきます。
俺も一緒に。
いらんいらん。雑用係は家の掃除でも。
昨日のうちに終わらせた。ほら、埃一つ落ちてないでしょ。
お前さては、俺が言いそうな雑用を全部先回りして片付けたんだ。
Look at Nayuta getting everything done so that he can spend time with Hibari.
俺は自分の仕事をやっただけ。これならおじさんも断る理由なんてないでしょ。荷物持ちっていう立派な雑用がひばりさんには必要になるかもしれないんだから。
We definitely need him to carry all the bags.
まったく、ヘリクスこねやがって。仕方ない。時間もないことだし、同行だけは認めてやる。
やった！
くれぐれもお嬢様の邪魔にはなるなよ。すいません。では、そろそろ行きましょう。
はい。
Good. Nayuta's coming along again today. I accidentally locked eyes with him. He nodded at me with a smile. And though I was relieved, I also felt a niggling sense of unease. Why are we leaving slightly earlier? Probably because Kojiro wanted to leave his nephew behind. On the way to meet Tsumugi, I looked at Nayuta and ruminated on how he was doing. Hey, it's my mom again. When he was my bodyguard before, he would go into what he called work mode and stubbornly refuse to take breaks, even if I encouraged him. However, just before the incident at the party, he was overly aware of me and wasn't in work mode at all. And now, today, his attitude toward me was neither work mode nor hyperconscious mode. Is this his normal self? He wasn't trying to be a bodyguard or anything. He was just acting similar to how he did at home. What kind of role is Nayuta taking on now? Odd jobs person? That's what he is at home anyway.
Mama.
It's been a while, Gothy Lolly Tsumugi. Tsumugi showed up right on time with a delighted smile on her face.
ごきげんよう、ひばり様。今日は随分と賑やかでしたね。お久しぶりです、八神さん。
つむぎさん、こんにちは。
変わらずお元気なようで何よりですわ。ところで、こちらの方は？
はじめまして、加納様。ひばり様の護衛を務めております八神小次郎と申します。
まあ、あなたが噂の。確か八神さんの。
まあ那由他の叔父でして。
確かに言われてみるとほんの少し似てらっしゃいますわね。では小次郎さんとお呼びしても？
どうぞお好きなようにお呼びください。
For some reason, she was staring straight at Kojiro.
私の顔に何か？
ごめんなさい。ひばり様がいつもの方々以外を連れられているのが珍しくて。
Is that the reason, Tsumugi?
は
それじゃあ挨拶も済ませたし行きましょうか。
Having successfully finished up the conversation, I began walking with Tsumugi. Kojiro maintained a reasonable distance not far behind us. Nayuta brought up the rear a little farther behind him.
なんだか落ち着きませんわね。
I think Tsumugi's like, why does this old guy have to be here with us? Tsumugi's like, with this guy here, I can't wing woman.
ごめんなさい。あらかじめ連絡しておくべきだったわね。本も二人にじっと見つめられてちゃ。いえ、違いますわ。
She glanced over at Kojiro behind us.
ひばり様のおそばにいるのが八神さんではないことが落ち着きませんの。そう思っているのはあなたも同じではありませんか？
I couldn't answer her question. But Tsumugi didn't pay me any mind and just continued to shop to her heart's content at any store that caught her eye. And she kept going. And going. Maybe a little too much.
大量ですわ。
She was carrying a large amount of shopping bags.
そんなにたくさんお買い物をしたのは久しぶりです。相変わらず紬の大胆な買い物は見ていて気持ちがいいわね。良い気分転換になったのなら何よりです。ですが私としてはひばり様の大人買いしている姿も見てみたいものですわね。そのうちね。
As we talked cheerfully, we couldn't help but get drawn into the next store. I'm actually kind of tired from all the walking. I wish we could take a break. But I didn't want to be a wet blanket and ruin Tsumugi's mood. I thought I could tolerate it a little longer, so I was about to start walking again when...
すみません。ちょっと休憩しませんか。
なゆたくん？
He popped up out of nowhere and almost made me jump. He sure is close to me. And clearly in tune with your mood, Barry.
なゆた、お前は雑用係として来たんだろうが、主人の行動に口出しするんじゃない。
でもひばりさん少し疲れてますよね。なら無理しないで休んだ方が。
そりゃお前の勝手な思い込みだろ。
いえ、それは。
Kojiro was wrong. I was definitely tired. I wanted to say so, but...
すみませんね、ひばり様。あいつの言うことは放っておいていいんで。
See, Nayuta's clearly the better bodyguard. He can tell that she's tired, and Kojiro can't.
あんまり出過ぎるような真似をするなら雑用係もやめさせますから。
Kojiro's harsh words shut Nayuta down.
では私の方から休憩をお願いしてもよろしいでしょうか。店をたくさん回ったせいか少し歩き疲れてしまいましたの。構いませんか、ひばり様。ええそうね。じゃあ昼食がてらいつも行ってるレストランに行きましょうか。小次郎さんもいい？
ああ、はい。そういうことでしたら。
Tsumugi started walking as if to say we should get a move on. I sidled up next to her and whispered,
ありがとう。 何のことでしょう。私は本当に歩き疲れていただけですわ。ですが、まだ付き合いが浅いということもあるでしょうが、あのおじさま、ぬるいというか、融通が利きませんわね。はっきり言って表にならないでしょ。回答は避けておくわ。
It's Smoogie for you. She never pulled any punches, even about someone she just met.
確かに護衛としては申し分なし。佇まいを見れば私でもそのぐらいはわかります。
Smugie's assessment: competent bodyguard. Doesn't know a thing about the ladies.
ですが、それとひばり様のことを理解しているかどうかは話が別ですわよね。そうね。なんだかんだで成田君がずっと私のそばにいたし。
He surely could tell how I was feeling by watching me and had spoken up out of concern. Nayuta and Kojiro kept having slight disagreements with each other after that. Once we finished lunch, we immersed ourselves in shopping and totally got carried away.
大満足ですわ。やっぱり買い物は乙女を潤す魔法ですわね。私も最終的にはすっきりできた気がするわ。
Once again, Tsumugi had tons of bags in both hands. They were all packed to the brim as usual. So much so I worried the bottoms might give out.
さて、少々名残惜しくはありますが、ひばり様も病み上がりですし、そろそろお開きとしましょうか。そうね。今日は誘ってくれてありがとう、つむぎ。少し気が楽になったわ。私も楽しかったですわ。小次郎さんと八神さんもお付き合いいただきありがとうございました。
いえいえ、このぐらいは当然です。
俺も珍しいものがたくさん見れて楽しかったです。
それは何より。それではまた学校で。何かあればいつでもお話を聞きますから。
Tsumugi was such a great friend. She then started to walk away. However, for some reason, she suddenly stopped when she was about to pass Nayuta.
ああ、そうそう。この先のカフェで今やっているマロンスイーツフェアがとても好評だそうですわよ。私はこの後用事があるので寄れませんが、興味があればぜひ。ね、八神さん。
え？俺ですか？マロンって言うならどっちかっていうと
それでは今度こそごきげんよ
う。なんというか独特な雰囲気のお嬢さんでしたね。
ええ、そうね。それは否定しないわ。
Did Kojiro a favor and didn't share what Tsumugi thought of him. What I really wanted to know was, why did Tsumugi say that when she left?
ひばりさん。
え？あ、はい。何かしら。
確かひばりさん、栗を使ったお菓子好きでしたよね。
ええ、そうね。和菓子にもよく使われてるし。
だったらつむぎさんが言ってたカフェぜひ行きましょう。この時期しかやってないんですよね。
静かにしろ、なゆた。行き先を決めるのはお嬢様。
行くわ、行きます。いいわね、マロンスイーツ。今ものすごく食べたい気分だわ。
I forcefully cut him off so he wouldn't get the upper hand in the conversation. We stood in front of the brightly lit cafe. The store was packed with female customers. It certainly did seem popular, like Samugi said.
それじゃあ早速。
はい、行ってらっしゃいませ。私たちはここでお待ちしております。
Ah, Samugi's like, there is no way Kojiro will go into this cafe.
二人は入らないの？
基本的に護衛は主人と食事を共にしないはずですが、お嬢様もご存知でしょう。
Eating sweets alone in such a crowded cafe would feel so pathetic. The other customers would definitely look at me with pity. There was no way I could handle that.
二人とも一緒に入ってくれない？今だけは護衛とか気にしなくていいから。
おじさん、せっかくのひばりさんからのお誘いだし。
いい加減にしろなゆた。さっきからお前は出しゃばりすぎだ。いいか、護衛ってのはな、自分を律し主人の安全を優先して。
でも今の俺は護衛じゃない。
Yep. Not a bodyguard.
なら一緒に入って大丈夫だよね。さっきからおじさんもそう繰り返してたし。
Kojiro choked back a surprised gasp at Nayuta's unexpected reprisal. Nayuta took advantage of the opening and quickly grabbed my hand.
行きましょう。おじさん、女の人に耐性ないから入っちゃえばこっちのもんです。
こら、なゆた、最後に余計なこと言わなかったか今。たく、お嬢様の許可が出たならいいが、絶対に粗相をするんじゃねえぞ。
I think Kojiro's definition of a bodyguard is way too stuffy. Nayuta and I ate the sweets that the server had brought to us. All of the limited edition Maron sweets on the menu were delicious, just like Samugi said. But more importantly,
なんかこうやって落ち着いて話すの久しぶりな気がしますね。
ええ、いろんなことが一気に起きたから。
more than anything, I just was happy to get some FaceTime with him.
改めて謝らせてください。俺、あの時ちゃんとあなたを守れなくて。
いいのよ。あの時も言ったけど、那由他くんは悪くない。
いえ、悪いんです。本当は俺、もっと早く反応できたはずなんです。でもあの時、考え事をしていて、そのせいで気づくのが遅れちゃって、その結果、あなたを守れなかった。護衛失格と言われても仕方ないです。
This was serious. As long as Nayuta thought this way about himself, my clumsy attempts at comfort might only hurt him.
わかったわ。じゃあその謝罪はしっかり受け止めさせてもらいます。その代わりというのもおかしいけれど、一つ聞いてもいい？
はい、何でしょう。
どうして私と同席してくれたの？護衛の復帰を目指してるなら小次郎さんに従った方がいい。それはわかるでしょ？
それはあのままひばりさんを一人にしたら絶対笑顔になってくれないなってそう思ったからです。一人で食べるの寂しかったんですよね。俺間違ってます？
He is so in tune with her moods. All except the important emotion going on here.
ってないけれど。
確かに俺が取った行動は護衛としては失格かもしれません。っていうかもう実際外れてますし。でも俺それでもいいかなって。ひばりさんが寂しい思いをせずに済むならそれで。
I was utterly speechless. Nayuta was so attached to being my bodyguard. I never thought he would say something like that.
俺バカだからどうしたらもっとひばりさんの役に立てるか考えてもわかんなくて。だから思ったんです。ひばりさんが笑ってくれることを基準に動こうって。こうしたら喜んでくれるかな、笑っててくれるかなってめちゃくちゃ観察しまくって。
Yes, putting in the work.
それは護衛の仕事とは違うけどすごく大事な役目だって思えたから。だから俺今は雑用係でよかったです。ひばりさんのためになることなら何でもできるから。
My heart soared with joy. I'd never seen this version of him. It was different from any of his other sides. He wasn't a dog blindly obeying his master, and he wasn't an actor obsessed with the dream of being the perfect bodyguard. He's just Nayuta Yagami, and he's thinking about me. I somehow managed to hold back the tears that were now threatening to spill over. I had no idea if his desire to protect me came from romantic feelings or not, but Nayuta's smile alone is enough to fill me with happiness.
すみません。さっき来たパフェが溶けちゃいますね。さあ、早く食べましょう。すっごく美味しそうですよ。ほらほら、食べてください。俺も食べます。
Nayuta handed me a spoon with a huge smile on his face.
そうね。いただきましょう。
I had a bit of the parfait and smiled back at him, thinking about how he had protected me.
ただいま帰りました。それじゃあ俺、日夜さんの夕飯作りを手伝ってきますね。
Nayuta hastily made his way to the kitchen. It seems he hadn't forgotten about his position handling odd jobs. He's totally back to normal.
今日はお疲れ様でした、ひばり様。すみません。ナユタのやつが妙に張り切って。
いいのよ。私も彼がいてくれて助かったから。
あいつを甘やかすのもほどほどに。調子に乗りやすいタイプなんで。
別に甘やかしてるわけじゃ。
I didn't have the confidence to explain how I felt, so I just mumbled and tried to avoid eye contact. I was a little uncomfortable around Kojiro when he was on bodyguard duty. He was so different to when I first met him, and he was much more relaxed. Nayuta does this too. I wonder if all the Yagamis change their personalities when they're in work mode. As I pondered this, I sensed that Kojiro was smiling awkwardly at me.
お嬢様はやっぱりナユタの護衛の方がいいですか？
それは。
はあ、これでも俺仕事ぶりには自信があるんですけどね。ま、不満があればいつでも言ってください。俺なりに努力させてもらいますから。
Kojiro bowed slightly and went straight to the living room.
護衛として。
I thought back to how Kojiro acted today and yesterday. Yeah, complaints, not understanding when we want breaks. Yep. That is an important ability. fear with me, yet wasn't so far away it was unsafe. He could easily protect me if anything dangerous happened. He sure was a pro. He did everything perfectly, just as I'd expect of my grandfather's bodyguard. But this isn't right.
だから俺、今は雑用係でよかったです。ひばりさんのためになることなら何でもできるから。
Remembering what Nayuta said earlier convinced me. I still want Nayuta to be with me. That's what I want, no matter how...
Toma, こんな感じですわ。まったく困ったもんです。やっぱりナユタは早々にお嬢様から引き離した方がお互いのためなんじゃないですかね。
Oh, don't you dare.
そうすりゃ諦めもつくと思うんですよ。そもそもあいつに東条家令嬢の護衛なんて荷が重いんですから。お嬢様も案外情に脆くて、ナユタには甘いんですよね。本当にご当主のお孫さんかと。
どういう意味じゃ。
いいえ、なんでも。けど、ご当主様だってそう思いませんか？大事なお孫さんのそばにあんな危険物を置いといたら気が気じゃないでしょ
う。さっきからのお前の話を総合すると、ナユタはただ護衛に戻りたくて必死。ひばりはそんなナユタに同情してあやつを見切れずにいる。そういうことか？
ええ、その通りです。いやー、おじとしても本当に不甲斐ないばかりで。
本当にそれだけだと思っとるのか？
他に何かありましたっけ？
小次郎。
はい。
だからお前はモテんのじゃ。
Everyone knows he's just bad at women.
はい？今そんな話してました？
まったく八神の者はどいつもこいつも仕事を離れたらポンコツ揃いか。
Gramps is just like, your entire family is just really, really dense. I question how they managed to get married and carry on a family if they're all this dense.
ひどいっすね。
もうよい。お前には期待せんわ。
ご当主様？
明日、ひばりをここへ呼び出して、わしが直接話す。それが早い。
ご当主様から説得していただけるんで？
それは明日のお楽しみじゃ。
Da da dum. Da da dum. Now, unfortunately, I think I am going to have to leave you guys on that cliffhanger because the back of my throat is not behaving. And I think if I push it, it is not going to go well. So I am actually going to call it early, I'm afraid. And we'll just have to pick this up for a last session another time. Hopefully when I don't still have a cold. So yeah. Thank you very much for coming. It's been fun. And he's almost got it. He's almost got it. We do in fact still have a Monday before next year. That is very true, Drag. Guess when I'm planning to finish this. Yes. if you're new here and you've enjoyed your time, please consider subscribing to the channel. You can also follow me on social media, which is linked in the description. The streaming schedule for the channel goes up both over there on social media and over here on YouTube in the posts tab of the channel. After this, I'll be taking a few days off for the traditional Christmas travelling period. So, Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and just have a fun week if you don't. I will be back next time to stream on Sunday. I'm not entirely sure what time at the moment, because travel and stuff. I will confirm Sunday morning. It will be sometime afternoon to evening-ish. So that will be actually finishing the case of the serialized killer, hopefully, assuming... I mean, I can't still have a cold by then, right? Surely. But yes, I'll see you then, or another time. Once again, thank you very much for coming. This is Kalla signing out. See ya! Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.